11 on the Condo Craze and HOAs channel on YouTube. I'm attorney Eric Glazer from the law firm Glazer & Sachs, board certified in condominium and planned development law. We represent associations and owners all across the state. We're here each week to answer all your questions about the issues in your condominium that make you crazy. We'd love to get the phone lines or YouTube chat going early, answer all of your questions. No matter where you are in the state, give us a call, 717-GLAZER-8, again, 717-GLAZER-8, 452-9378. Of course, you can visit us on the Condo Craze channel and ask us a question in the chat box. And if you're a fan of the show, you got to remember to subscribe to two things. Number one, the channel on YouTube where you can ask questions live. Please don't forget to hit subscribe and like, and join our email list at condocrazeandhoas.com. You can get announcements about the show, our blog, our seminars, our newsletters, updates on the law, and a lot more. We're going to talk about that today. You can also now follow the show on Facebook, TikTok, Apple, and Spotify. We do a blog every single Monday morning at hoa-condoblog.com. Tomorrow, all about association wanting access to your records. Next, you can see him sitting next to an empty chair today. This is the first time in 15 years that I'm doing the show without Karen. To say it feels a weird understatement. All right, there are times when there's certain events going on in our country and state which transcend, the condo stuff that goes on this show, and we need to talk about that. New segment from now on, Glazer's Gaze. So let's start the first episode of Glazer's Gaze, and this week there was a senseless death of a 31-year-old police officer in New York shot by a guy with several violent crimes. That's because New York went after the defund the police movement, and we got to make sure this never happens in Florida. This hero leaves behind a young wife, a young child, and it was great to see President Trump go out there this week and pay his respects. Can't say the same about President Biden, who was sitting at a $10,000 a plate dinner. But forgetting our current president, I've said this before on the show, we can talk all day about condo and HOA rules, but our community means nothing if it's not safe first. You got to keep the bad guys off the street. The legislature in New York fails all the time. Can't let that happen here. Can you imagine with a guy with 24 priors? 24 priors killed this 31-year-old hero. At some point, doesn't a person lose the right to live among us? After robbing, raping, that's all they know. How many arrests does it take? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50? This happens in our great cities all the time, like New York, Chicago, LA. And if Florida is going to remain the great state that it is, we always need to vote in legislators, Republican or Democrat, who understand that the first obligation is safety to the citizens of this state. And we got to must make sure that we never get to a situation where robbers and rapists in this state can have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 arrests. It simply can't happen. They got to go way before that. And again, when I vote going forward, that's the thing that I want to be looking for. I want to see which legislator is going to guarantee safety for myself and for my family first, again, regardless of which party. I had a case a couple of years ago, and I was trying to kick somebody out of a unit, actually a unit that they owned. It was their homestead property. And this was a crazy guy who went around tasing people, who went around beating women up, all kinds of crazy stuff. This guy thought he was in the mafia, quite frankly. And I tried to kick him out, and I got restraining orders, and this guy had like Bentleys, and he thought he was rich. He thought he was a mobster. And at the hearing, his two witnesses against me were two hookers. Rob, you had to see that cross-examination. That was fun, I got to tell you. So my point being, we got a final judgment against him, kicking him out of the property completely. Now, what, of course, does the guy do? He takes an appeal. Can't kick me out of my home, right? And I'll never forget the first judge on a 3-judge panel starts the hearing by saying, I woke up this morning and I took a look at like the judicial canon of ethics or whatever, and he says, what's at the top of the list as a job as a judge? To preserve the public safety. Okay, he thought that was his number one role as a judge, was to preserve the public safety. So how did he rule, even though this was this guy's homestead on appeal? Affirmed. We got this person kicked out of their home for life, forever, because this judge knew that if you send the person back, just think of what I'm saying. If you send the person back, they're going to do the same thing again, just like what's happening again in New York. It used to freak me out when I worked for the Brooklyn DA's office through college, actually, not even law school, and I would pick up a rap sheet of a defendant, and I would see 10, 20, 30, turning the pages. I'm going, this is not possible. How is this human being still on the street? And here we have a situation, Rob, in New York where a young guy was killed by someone with 24 prior arrests, 9 of which were for violent felonies. And again, how in the world is this guy still on the street? And again, like I said, we can talk about our communities and our rules and our regulations, but doesn't it actually have to start with safety for our families, period?
Absolutely.
Everything we talk about means nothing if our homes are not safe. So the point being today, we can never, ever, ever let Florida become what's happened to the big cities of the Northeast. That's why we moved here. Don't ever, ever elect legislators who don't realize that it's their number one job is safety first. We got safety, we can accomplish the other tasks as we go. But without safety, you have nothing. Okay? All right. Love to know what our listeners think. That's Glazer's Gaze, first episode. There's going to be times, again, like I said, we got to go outside the box. We got to talk about things that are just not in the statutes, just not, in the case law. We got to talk about things that are actually going on in our communities and our states, going on with the state legislators. These are important things to talk about. And again, with me, at least the way I think about it, with me and my family, what could possibly be more important than safety? How do you feel? I mean, think about this, Rob. How would you feel if, God forbid, somebody in your immediate family was killed by somebody who had 50 prior arrests? How would you cope with that? As a person, how would you cope with that if, God forbid, your wife, your child was taken out by someone with 50 prior arrests? I don't think I'd be able to live with that. It'd be hard enough to live with a death, but 50? There's no way that I think you could remain sane after that. I think you'd want some justification, you want some explanation, you want some revenge, quite frankly. So before we get there, let's make sure we have people in there that understand safety first, period. Everything else comes second. Would love to know what our listeners think. Give us a call in the studio, 717-GLAZER-8. Again, 717-GLAZER-8. That's 717-452-9378. We absolutely will talk about HOA directors facing a lot of different issues this year. I know that's what we scheduled for. We'll talk about it. I promise you that. But give us a call in the studio. Ask any question you like. Drop us a question in the chat box. We'll be back right after our first.
There are very large management companies, and there are very small management companies. And I think Affinity sits somewhere in the middle of that, where they are big enough to provide you with all of the back of the house services, the accounting, the infrastructure, the support systems, but small enough to be high touch.
We believe at Affinity that we do the 9 to 5 so that you don't have to do that.
Oh no, an unexpected leak. Jay, you know that's no way to solve a roof problem. Call Best Roofing. We solve roof problems.
We are DMI Paving and Seal Coating, Florida's parking lot experts. We specialize in asphalt paving and repair, including pothole repair, seal coating using JC7 or polytar, concrete curbs, ramps, and walkways, and striping and pavement marking, as well as ADA compliance. We service commercial properties, including homeowners associations, apartment communities, shopping malls, warehouses, stadiums and arenas, and more. Experience is worth more than anything in an industry like ours, and our staff has decades of it. We have specialized equipment for any job, regardless of size, saving you time and money. DMI has a reputable history. We have been in business since 1956. We serve the state of Florida from 6 locations. Let us bid on your next parking lot project. Visit us online at dmipavingandsealcoating.com.
For mitigation after a catastrophic event, building restoration, repair and remediation consulting, or Senate Bill 4D inspections, please visit rimkiss.com.
Right? 15 years without doing it. First time doing it without Karen today, and we miss her. And I'm attorney Eric Glazer with the law firm of Glazer and Sachs, board certified by the Florida Bar in Condominium and Plan Development Law. We're here answering your calls and questions every Sunday for 15 years now. Give us a call about anything and everything in your condo and HOA world. Here's the numbers: 717-GLAZER-8. Again, 717-GLAZER-8. That translates to 717-452-9378, or drop us a question in the chat box on YouTube. Who's our first caller, Rob?
Let's go to Sean from...
Oh, I don't got my things in. How about that?
Uh-huh.
Shake it up today. All right, we'll go to Sean. How about that?
Yeah, hang on. Hang on, Sean. We'll get to you in a second.
Bring him up.
Eric,
yes.
Happy Easter.
Hey, Sean, thank you so much. Happy Easter.
For all the safety. Great.
Thank you very much.
Quick, our board held our annual meeting with an election, but the board posted notice on the property physically, but then sent out 4 additional notices, one even less than 20 hours before the annual meeting, with changes to our proposed budget and reserve accrual accounts.
Okay.
I went on record noticing improper notice of less than 30 days. Do any motions or votes that they took still count for the budget or any other agenda item?
You certainly can challenge it. So for the budget, right, budget's got to be sent out 14 days in advance, right? The unit owners have a right to see it. And then at that meeting that's been properly noticed with 14 days in advance, then they can vote on it. Now, so yeah, I think the budget was certainly done wrong. Right? Maybe have to be renoticed if at the last second with less than 1 day they change the budget, then yeah, I would say absolutely that meeting has to be renoticed. Now, separately and apart from that, tell me what the problem was. This was also your annual meeting? It was the same meeting?
Yes, it was our annual meeting, and our documents say 30-day notice is required.
So
you're saying 14 days for the budget?
No, your document. If your documents say yes, correct. Now, what do your documents say specifically about notice of the budget meeting? Because if it doesn't say anything, it's 14.
Well, our budget is always held at the annual meeting,
right?
And our documents say 30 days. 30 days.
Then it's 30 days because that's what your documents say. So it seems like everything they did was wrong. Could you make them renotice it? Could you complain about it? Absolutely.
Even more interesting, the president, who was no longer seeking re-election, decided to hold the election before conducting any business for the association.
Okay.
The association voted. A new board was basically selected. He then went on after that, not being selected anymore because he wasn't running, to conduct the rest of the meeting.
Even though he wasn't on the board any longer.
On the grounds of that?
Yeah, that's bizarre too. But here's your problem. Okay, you're going to challenge it. Where are you going to challenge it? You know what I'm saying? Where are you going to challenge it? What are you going to do? You didn't go to court over this?
Well,
because as we know.
Well, the question.
Yeah.
Right.
As we know, the DBPR is not going to help you out.
What good are these statutes? What good are these statutes?
Listen, as we'll learn over the next couple of weeks, the statutes have improved dramatically. And by the way, we'll be teaching them tomorrow.
They have.
Yeah, we'll be teaching them tomorrow, by the way, in Tampa at the L&L Condo and HOA exhibition. First time I'll be teaching all the new laws. Again, they didn't pass yet. You know, they didn't get signed by the governor, but they passed the House and the Senate basically unanimously. So I expect the governor to sign them, maybe even tomorrow. But even with the new laws in a situation like you have where, okay, the budget should have been noticed with 30 days. It was only given, you know, 25 days or whatever it may be. Where do you go fight those things? And the answer is you're not going to take thousands of dollars out of your pocket to go to court, are you? Or even pre-suit mediation. It's going to be tough. And then the bottom line is, okay, they do it the right way, right? They do the 30 days notice, and it's going to pass anyway, buddy. So sometimes, Sean, it's a losing battle because they're going to have the right to do it over again. They'll do it right, and really nothing has changed. You know what I'm saying?
I do. I mean, and I'm driving myself absolutely crazy that the rest of the community is willing to let them make false reports and overinflate our reserves. And
that's a different story.
All kinds of things that could end us in trouble.
Yeah, that's a different story. That should always be challenged. And if the numbers aren't right, yes, you should have the opportunity to challenge it at a meeting that's properly noticed, that unit owners can attend, and the unit owners have a right to speak. I'm with you on that 100%. Okay? Sean,
and I appreciate
happy
it,
Easter.
And I want all your listeners to know that one of the reasons that the rules are changing is because of all of your efforts.
Thank
So
you.
thank
Hey,
you.
thanks, buddy. I really appreciate that. I sincerely do. Okay? You have a great, happy
All right,
Easter.
take care, Eric.
Be well. Who else we got?
Let's go to John.
Hey, John.
Good morning, everybody. Just wanted to honor the former police officer as well. And we do need safety in our communities.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Isn't that number one? Isn't that the first thing? Would you like to live in a community where you know there's people on the street with 20, 30, 40, 50 prior arrests? How are we allowing that to happen in our society today? How did we ever get there? I think it's a tragedy. It really is. But thank you.
It is. Well, so here's the question, which relates to, in a way, you know, allowing criminals to stay on the board, individuals who are hurting our communities and our safety via elections. So let's say there's an election that you have to turn in your candidacy by March 15th. And you send in your candidacy, but it says to send it by writing. In writing, your notice, your intent. And you send it, certified return receipt with a postmark on it on March 15th.
Yes.
It doesn't say that you have to receive it at their office via email or in person or anything else at the office. It says that you have to send it by March 15th. Not a problem. You send it, but they decide to receive it on, you know, they receive it on March 18th.
Right.
But they decide that because you're going against them, that your candidacy is not allowed because they didn't receive it even though it was postmarked.
Right.
Now, our bylaws basically state any owner or eligible person to be a candidate for the board shall give written notice to the association not less than 40 days. It was within 40 days. I mean, you know, not less than 40 days. But my question is this. There are attorneys who are protecting the same, I don't want to say crooks, but, you know what it is. The same people, they're basically saying, well, you sent it.
Yeah.
You can't, you just can't dump it in there and wish for it to arrive. But that's what their wording says on their document.
Yeah,
Mail it.
And that may hurt them. On the same token, right? The same token, you know, you're the board. You got to get, you know, everything prepared by a certain time. And you say you sent it. And how long are they supposed to wait? Now, is this an HOA or a condo?
Condo.
See,
we're concerned that the postmark date is on the envelope.
Right, but the
that
problem,
should be respected.
Hang on, John. The problem with a condo is that, remember, they got to send out a second notice with a ballot with everybody's name on it. So if you were going to say, well, as long as I put it in the mail, that's good enough, we all know how terrible the mail could be at sometimes. So I think if we look at case law, right, if we look at decisions from the arbitrator, I think the arbitrator is going to tell you that the postmark really doesn't mean much because you can have it postmarked, but it could wind up at the condo God knows how much longer. I think it's got to be received by the condo. And I understand you're frustrated, and I understand that, you know, that they told you as long as it's postmarked. But I can tell you the cases that I'm aware of, bottom line is we're talking receipt by the condominium every time. Every time. Now, the arbitrators will be, what's the word I'm looking for, very kind when they're interpreting questions as to whether or not the condo received it. For example, let's say the ballot or your notice of intent arrives in the condo over the weekend, you know, in a closed door. Well, does that mean it was on time, even though that was the last day? Yes, they will accept it when your notice of intent is slipped through the closed door. Every time they can give the benefit of the doubt to the owner, they basically will. But the bottom line is it has to be received, not postmarked. On this one, I got to go with them.
So question, because in the wording on their document, our bylaws and the statute, it says must be mailed. And let's say they receive it 2 days after the deadline,
right?
But it was postmarked by the deadline.
So,
okay, understood as far as the deadline.
So but what are they supposed to do?
Out until 2 weeks later.
Yeah, but well, if suppose it's though received after the deadline, like you say, and they have to mail these things out timely. Again, I'm going with receipt. It has to be received by a certain day.
Right,
and that
but
date in the condo.
It's 10 days from when they received it till they mailing out finally the second notice.
I hear you, but you know, we're going to butt heads on this one. I can't agree. You know, every time a caller calls, can't agree, even though I feel bad for you. But this one, I'm going with receipt, buddy. Okay? Sorry, we got to take the next call. You be well. Who else we got?
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's see. Our next caller is Barry. Let me get him on the line.
Hello?
Barry, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Okay, I'm going to tell everybody what you're working on, by the way, because I think it's so important.
No. I don't thank you, but I have to meet a friend in 5 minutes, and they're already here.
Okay.
And can I just, afterwards, maybe you can do
Absolutely,
that.
Sure
my
thing.
wife has already gone to meet her friend.
Go right ahead.
I don't think the governor can sign anything tomorrow because as of 2 days ago, he never got any of the condo bills. They haven't been sent to him as of 2 days ago.
Okay. Well, I don't think there's a doubt in anybody's mind that eventually the two bills that just passed, they're going to be the law. No question about it.
Yeah, and a lot of it, and they definitely will be the law, and mandatory education that you work so hard on is definitely going to
Thanks, Barry.
Be in there.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
My question is the structural engineering studies, you know, you're going to have a fourth of them done. You're going to have some low percentage of milestone inspections done. What's going to happen after December 31st when none of this stuff is done?
Let me, when none of it, so it's kind of scary, right? There's a deadline to what Barry's talking about. There's a deadline. Again, if you're in a condominium 3 stories or more, in Broward, it's not even by height. In Broward, it's by square footage. You're going to have your structural integrity. Oh, actually, no. Structural integrity reserve study is 3 stories or more, period. I'm talking to those condominiums that are 3 stories or more. You have to have your structural integrity reserve study done. And by December 31st. What's going to happen to those people that don't have it done by then? I would guess that well, you know what? The building official doesn't even know about it, quite frankly. So I don't know if this has much to do with your building official. And the only one that would have the right to complain is a fellow unit owner living in the building. And the best they could do is file a mediation request. And the reality is, you're right. You know, the bill sounds really tough. You got to do this by December 31st. But if they don't, I don't know. What's the penalty? What's really the penalty? Can the DBPR ultimately fine them for not having it done by a certain period of time? I don't think so. I don't think that their jurisdiction has expanded so much that it will allow them to even put a fine against the association. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, my thoughts are not much is going to happen.
Yeah, it's a little. It's a little scary.
They don't have the resources. They don't have the authority under the statute. And the real problem is, as you've noted before, the only people that have this information, if they haven't sent in a building reporting form that says they're 3 stories or higher, and there's about 10,000 condominiums that haven't sent it in.
Wow. Just wow.
The only people that know about this are the local building officials. They're
Right.
the only ones that have this information.
Right, but I don't think they have the authority to force you to get your SIRS, your structural integrity reserve study.
They have no authority over SIRS.
Right, it's amazing.
But they have no authority over SIRS, but they have this information because they enforce the milestone inspections.
Right,
but they're
right.
the only ones who know about this. Nobody else knows about it.
Right, it would be great if they had the authority to enforce it. So what do we know is going to happen, right? What do we know is going to happen? You're going to have communities that, bottom line, they don't want to increase the amount they spend on reserves, and they're going to hold off on doing their structural integrity reserve study. Now, the only thing I can tell you that we both know is there is a provision in the statute that said if directors are going to play that game, it's a breach of their fiduciary duty, and they can be held accountable individually, right? It's a breach of their fiduciary duty. So I guess you can sue the directors perhaps individually, and if you get a judgment saying, yes, do your structural integrity reserve study, those directors would have to pay your attorney's fees and costs. I think that's a possibility. So that might give you, a little fear for some directors. I don't know. But Barry, like always, you make us think each week, and I appreciate it. Go run to your wife before she yells at you. Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
You have a great day. Really, really quick, what Barry's also working on. So as we know, we have mandatory education that's coming, right? And believe it or not, I'm obviously not going to tell you who on this show, but there are places you can go to on the internet, even through some law firms, believe it or not, management companies, where they tell you, get certified by simply watching our video, and we'll give you a code that you can put in at the end, and that way we know you watched it, and we'll send you your certificate. Well, there's flaws in the program. How do you like this one, Rob? You can go to their website, right? Go right to the end, right? You didn't watch or listen to one word. You go right to the end, you see the code number, you send them an email with the code number, they send you your certificate. Now, if Barry's working on that to make sure, and he's working with Representative Vicky Lopez, this is going to be stopped next year too. You can guarantee it. All this trickery, this nonsense, this is the last year that that's going to happen. There's going to be no more of this online stuff. And I got to tell you, I've done it a few times. I've taught online, and you get a breakdown from Zoom as to who was on. But the truth, I never liked it. And, people ask me to do it all the time. I'm not doing it because I don't know if you're sitting there. I don't know if you're not sitting there. I don't think that by not going in person, you lose that interaction. You really do lose the ability to hear from everybody and their questions. So I think the worst thing you can do is sign up for one of those online courses, and shame on any law firm, shame on any management company that has something in place that allows someone to get certified simply by clicking here. Shame on you, okay? Let's do this. Let's take our bottom of the hour break. Keep the calls coming in on this Easter. Happy Easter to everybody again. 717-GLAZER-8. Again, that's 717-GLAZER-8, 717-452-9378. We'll go to the chat box on YouTube as soon as we get back as well.
The future of fiber is here. QXC Communications is a fiber network engineering firm based in Boca Raton. We build fiber networks that deliver high-speed internet, Wi-Fi, HDTV, and voice services, primarily to Florida's condominium communities. QXC's AON architecture is the industry's best practice and a game changer for our customers. We run 2 dedicated fibers to each unit. No splitters, no cables. So, every resident gets uninterrupted blazing fast speed and military-grade data security. Our Wi-Fi 6 network deployment powers performance on multiple devices with no dead zones. And the QXC TV app makes everyday programming access a breeze with 3-day rewind and optional cloud DVR. QXC AON Fiber is where the industry is heading. Get connected today.
Is your condominium or HOA in need of accounting services? Look no further. Gerstel, Rosen & Goldenberg is one of South Florida's largest accounting and auditing firms, as recognized by the South Florida Business Journal, and is one of the few accounting firms uniquely specialized to provide accounting services to their growing condominium and homeowner association clientele throughout Florida. With primary offices in Aventura and Boca Raton, satellite offices in Naples and Orlando, and a professional staff of 65, Gerstel, Rosen & Goldenberg is prepared to meet the needs of any condominium or HOA in the state. The professionals at Gerstel, Rosen & Goldenberg also have experience working with timeshares, cooperatives, hotel condominiums, mixed-use buildings, and ancillary operations like restaurants, spas, and country clubs. Put their 25 years experience in your corner. Gerstel, Rosen & Goldenberg, 305-937-0116. That's 305-937-0116 or grgcpa.com.
Someday, you will need insurance. And for that day, you'll be glad you wrote down Insurco Insurance and Financial Services. Why? Because Insurco virtually insures everything. They're a full-line insurance agency that'll put together the best possible coverage and premium for almost anything. Need homeowners or condo insurance? Call Insurco. Need auto or motorcycle insurance? Call Insurco. How about golf cart insurance or trailer and RV insurance? Just call Insurco for a free quote. They're open every day. From renters insurance, officers and directors insurance, and personal liability umbrellas to all types of business insurance, boat insurance, cancer policies, life, health, and annuities. All you need is Insurco. Get a free quote. They service Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. Speak English and Spanish. Insurco Insurance and Financial Services. It's the only name you need. Office at 14401 West Sunrise Boulevard in Sunrise, inside Edmore Chevrolet.
Call 954-846-1206. 954-846-1206. That's 954-846-1206.
All over the world, people have plumbing problems. These problems can be expensive and destructive to fix. Have you ever wondered if there was a way to take care of your plumbing problems without destruction and an outrageous price tag? Welcome to Pipelining Technologies, Inc., where we specialize in fixing your problems without demolition and minimum cutting by means of pipelining. Pipelining is the ability to take a pipe damaged by root intrusion or long-term deterioration and make it new. By means of inserting an epoxy-saturated liner into the pipe and allowing it to harden or cure, leaving behind a brand new pipe.
That sounds great. How can I get pipelining in my home, commercial building, or condominium?
Simply fill out our online contact form and a pipelining representative will get in touch with you in a timely fashion, or call us directly at 561-853-5463.
Condo Craze and HOAs. I'm attorney Eric Glazer with the law firm of Glazer and Sachs, PA, board certified by the Florida Bar, and we're here each week to take all of your calls and questions, whether it's by phone, 717-GLAZER-8, again, 717-GLAZER-8, or drop us a question in the chat box on YouTube. And we have a million things going on in the chat box as well. Let's see, Sean writes in, thank you for all you do and for your associates do. Thanks for our sanity. Thank you. Google writes in, Google Far writes in, the police are our first line of defense. What can I say? Absolutely, it should never have been that silly, insane, ridiculous defund the police movement that some of the cities fell in line with, a couple of years ago, and they caved to pressure, and they got what was coming to them, quite frankly. We're going to make sure that never happens in Florida, ever. You had an interesting question, Robert, about my course in particular.
Yeah, what makes your course different than an online course?
Okay, so when you take a course offered perhaps by others, there's about 4 different topics that the state requires to be taught. And now it's reserves, it's financial reporting, it's all about SIRS, all the new stuff, that type of stuff absolutely has to be taught. And I could probably teach that in 45 minutes if I taught only the things that were required to be taught. But in my opinion, I would not be doing the people that come to the seminars justice by just teaching those things. There is so much to know about running or even being an owner in a condo or an HOA, that when I do the class, instead of 4 topics, I probably teach 40 topics. I don't know. There's just so much that now goes into the course. And over the years, if I taught everything that I've put together over the years, the course would be 15 hours. But I can't do that. So every year I have to put some of the new stuff in and take some of the old stuff out. And I don't like taking old stuff out. That's why, really, if I could teach my course, if I never took anything out, I could teach it over days. And I'm at least going to give you much more than what's required. That's the bottom line. And I know people are saying they like to do it by Zoom. I don't have a problem if we did it by Zoom. If it was a small group, a small interactive group, where I know you're there. How do I know when it's a large group? How do I really know you were there? I don't know. Maybe you, it shows that your camera's logged on, but maybe you went to watch Seinfeld for 2 hours. How do I know? So I don't got a problem doing it in a small group, especially like the members of the board. They want to no problem.
And you take questions.
And you take questions, and it's interactive, no problem. That's a good online session. That's a good Zoom session. I don't like it when there's 150 people online, and I don't know who's there or who's not there. So if I'm going to do it from now on, it's going to be where I could see you, where we could talk, where you could ask questions. And by the way, that's not for my benefit. That's for yours. Okay? All right, who do we got?
Let's see. Let's go to Joe from Boynton Beach.
Hey, Joe.
Thank you very much for all you do and your team. We really
Thank you so much.
HOA, we record meetings, both audio and video. Then the minutes are approved the next month. Should the audio or videos be kept, or should they be destroyed?
There is nothing under the law that says you have to keep them. Nothing. Now, this has to do, there is a provision in the administrative code, for condominiums, okay? So what I'm telling you doesn't apply necessarily to HOAs, but there's a provision in the administrative code, that states if a condominium records meetings, okay, and the condominium is making that recording on their own device, that recording is an official record of the association and people can get it. However, once that meeting is transcribed and put in the minutes, and the minutes are voted upon and approved, the association has the right to destroy those minutes, and it's no longer an official record. So
the concern was obviously if there's people pick up a conflict 2 months later between the audio and the approved minutes.
Right. Listen, what's the harm in saving them? Does it take up space on a shelf or anything like that? Of course not. So what's the big deal if you save them? I think it's a good idea to save them. If there's ever a question about it, you can always go back to the videotape, right? So I think it's a good idea.
Now the minutes are approved, and now there's a conflict between the recording and the approved minutes.
Okay, go look at the recording, right? Go look at the recording, see what actually happened. That's why I think it's a good thing to save them. I certainly don't think there's any harm in saving them. It could only be a good thing, at least in my opinion, to save them. Okay?
Thank you again.
Thanks, Joe.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Take care. Who do we got?
Let's go to, I think this is Rachel. Rachel Avery.
Rachel, good morning.
Or Olin.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, I got a question about the most popular subject in HOAs about recalls.
Yes.
Is there any rule or law? Is there any laws which says what person can cast a vote in an election or recall if the property is in a trust or corporation or LLC?
So normally, yes, there absolutely is an answer to that question, and the answer to that question lies in the bylaws of that community. Okay, so some bylaws will say there needs to be, if a unit is owned by other than one person, there needs to be a voting certificate on file which tells you who can vote for that unit. So let's say it's owned by brother and sister, right? There has to be a voting certificate on file in most communities that say which one of the two gets the right to vote. Oftentimes there's an exception in the community that says, okay, you don't need one if you're husband and wife, okay? It should say you don't need one for any married couple, right? That's what it should say. And I would caution associations that if it says husband and wife, that means any married couple. Okay. Now, there's provisions under the law that refer to when you say trusts, if the person is a beneficiary of the trust or the trustee, then yes, they get the right to vote and run. They get the right to run for the board as well. So I hope that answers your question.
Well, we don't have any, as far as I know, I've lived here for 22 years.
Right.
We don't have any such as a voting certificate.
Okay, so here's what happens a lot of the time. The association has never used voting certificates before. They don't care. Whatever vote comes in, they're going to honor it, right? They certainly haven't used it in the last election. And all of a sudden, the board gets recalled, and the board says, no voting certificates on file. Well, wait a minute. You haven't used voting certificates for 22 years. And if the board tries to use that defense, the board will lose because they've never used voting certificates before, even though the governing documents say that voting certificates are required. So boards, beware. All right, let's go back to the board for a second, to the chat box. Vidal writes in, as a father of an NYPD officer, thank you for honoring one of New York's finest. Hey, of course. They are the best, greatest police force, certainly in this country, probably in the entire world. We are running a little late, so let's take our final break of the hour. Again, keep the calls coming in, 717-GLAZER-8, or drop us a question in the chat box on YouTube. Back right after this.
Is your home or condo looking old, worn out, and in need of a fresh look? Then you need PD Painting to paint your property and make it look like new again. PD Painting will first properly prepare your home and condo and then use only the highest quality paint products. After many years in the painting industry, PD Painting has achieved a reputation for always delivering a reliable and professional finish. PD Painting is fully licensed and insured and offers a 7 to 10-year warranty. Their technicians are expert craftsmen. Let PD Painting handle all the details and then sit back and watch them restore your property and bring back that brand new look and feel. Need a service call? PD Painting will be there on the spot. Need financing? PD Painting can offer that too. Call PD Painting at 888-416-3204. Again, that's 888-416-3204. Go to the website pdpaintinginc.com. Need painting done in your home and community? Contact the experts at PD Painting.
This message is for anyone who has taken on the important responsibility of becoming an officer or director in a homeowner or condominium association. It is also for the management companies who work closely with these caring people to make sure things are done the right way. Hello, I'm Gil Pomar, South Florida Regional President for Center State Bank, now the second largest bank based in Florida. Our bank, Center State Bank, has an amazing team of professionals who are exclusively dedicated to the homeowner and condo association market. Your job is not easy. There are repairs and new projects that need financing. There are legal and social issues that need to be understood. There are also technology and servicing issues that your residents want to be improved. Why not choose a bank that knows this business backward and forward? Why not have a local banker who will meet with you face to face whenever it is convenient for you or your board? Center State Bank has over 2,000 associations as customers for a reason. Please give us a chance to earn your business. Call Terry Russo at 954-633-1666 to make it happen. Center State Bank is an equal housing lender and a member of the FDIC.
Need an insurance evaluation, audit, or quotation for your condo association or homeowners association? If so, then you need to speak with our insurance experts at Mack & Waltz. We insure over 800 associations, and we are the clear leader in this marketplace. Mack & Waltz has been in business since 1989. We write insurance on billions of dollars of property values. We are an independent insurance agency representing insurance companies which specialize in condo and HOA insurance. The staff at Mack & Waltz works closely with board members and property managers and regularly attends association meetings to help educate the association about their insurance policies. To learn more about how Mack & Waltz can save you money and improve your insurance program, call now 954-640-6225 and ask for Greg Waltz. 954-640-6225. Mack & Waltz Insurance Group. Let us protect your association.
Glazer, and I look forward to answering your calls and questions every single week. Again, really fast, 717-GLAZER-8 or 717-452-9378, or drop us a question or comment in the chat box. And actually, let's go start there first. We got Pat B writes in, is there any law or legislation in Florida to protect homeowners against squatters? Guess what? Yes, it was signed into law this week. Whole big show, whole big presentation put on by Governor DeSantis. What we're seeing in the news is absolutely absurd. I don't know if anybody, I'm sure some of you saw that that TikTok segment of one of the migrant guys came in and started flashing a wad of $100 bills, probably had thousands on him, and said something to the effect of, you Americans are idiots, you work so hard, I'm not going to work so hard, and you are going to keep giving me this. And he's pointing to the money, and he's encouraging other people that have come in illegally to just take over other people's houses and become a squatter. Okay, for some reason he's sitting in jail today. I know that. His wife can't locate him. I read that this morning. But that's actually what's going on. There's actually an incentive out there for people to become squatters. And you hear insane stories about you being on vacation, you come home and wait a minute, there's people living in your house and you can't get them out. It takes months or years to get these people out. Now, does that sound absurd to anybody listening? You go on vacation, you come back and your house is taken over and there's nothing you can do about it? Yeah, maybe in some other states, but Governor DeSantis put a stop to that this week. The sheriff's going to be able to go in and basically, yank people out by their hair, basically, and say, you're out, and you're going to get arrested for it, and you're going to be prosecuted for it. So, yeah, this week, Pat, great new law signed by our governor. Lazada writes in, great class, have been to 2 and always learned something new, very comprehensive and current. Thank you, Mr. Glazer. No, thank you for coming, and I can tell you, starting tomorrow, for the first time ever for me, during COVID, I had nothing to do. So I put together a presentation that includes all the new laws, even though they didn't pass yet, but they're going to pass. So I'm not going to teach old things when I know the new laws are going to pass. So tomorrow is a very special day in Tampa. And next week, we got 2 other courses being offered, one in Broward on the 3rd and Palm Beach on the 10th. And I urge you to come to these seminars. They're vital at this point. And you can come just by registering. Condo Craze and HOAs.com. Again, Condo Craze and HOAs.com. All right, who else we got?
Well, Eric, quick question.
Yeah, sure.
Everyone's going to learn the new laws at the course? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely, yeah.
Great.
All the new laws are going to be taught at the course. You'll be the first person in your neighborhood to know what's going on, and that I promise.
That's great.
Okay? All right, who do we got?
Let's see. Let's go to Anita in Tampa.
Anita, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, and happy Easter, and thank you so much for all you do for the Florida citizens.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for listening. How can we help?
I have a question as to recent insurance changes that affect condominium associations.
Insurance, okay.
Yes. I'm in a small condominium association, Pasco County. We have a new board member, president, who is claiming that based on the insurance threat of the 15-year rule or proposal by insurance, that our association has to replace about 7 roofs, and she's looking to take a $400,000 loan on the property. This is pretty scary, and I'd like to know, are there any rules on this?
Okay, so oftentimes, you're with the same insurance company, but you haven't fixed your roof for a long time, and the insurance company will come by and say, hey, guess what? Not reinsuring you this year. We've inspected your roofs, and we're not going to risk a storm coming by, even if it's Category 1 storm, and the roof blowing off, and we got to provide you with a new roof. So, only way you're going to get insurance with us is to put on a new roof. So now, what's the board to do? Oh my God, we don't have insurance. We got to put on 7 new roofs, like you say. So We don't have the money. There's only two ways to get it, Anita, right? You're going to borrow from a bank, or you're going to pass a special assessment. You know, what else do you do? I know you don't want to spend all that money, but you also don't want to be without insurance. So you really don't have much of a choice. Now, if you were reserving all this time, like, you know, technically everybody should have been doing, it shouldn't be a big deal because the money should be there. And that's the whole point of these new laws that have been passed. You know, it's forcing you to do reserves so that when you need 7 new roofs, there's no panic. The money should technically all be there. But Anita, you're in a tough spot. You either fix the roofs or have no insurance. What do? You know, how do you answer that question?
The roofs are not in bad condition. We had a meeting about a year ago. They brought in, we had a previous management company, brought in the insurance reps, and the insurance reps said that structurally there's no problems. So there's conflicting information.
And the only thing you can do.
And the fact is, it's a 45-year-old community. There was a structured plan for roofs on, you know, an annual basis.
Yes.
And
listen, bottom line.
It's tight.
Bottom line is, this is the position your association's in. It gets thrown at board members really quick. They have to act, you know, they have to act quickly. The hurricane season's coming up all over again, and they got to make sure that there's insurance there. Period. That's their job. They have to make sure that there's insurance, and if it requires fixing these 7 roofs, that's what they got to do. Or try to find some other insurance company that you can talk into insuring your property, or with your current insurance company, try to get some professional reports like you say and tell them they're wrong and see if you can change their mind. That's going to be tough. Good luck with that. All right, let's go to Tammy really quick. Tammy is on the writes in a question, and Tammy talks about the new Florida program that's going to allow. This is a big deal. It's called My Florida Safe Program. My Florida Safe Home Program. I'm sorry, My Florida Safe Home Program. And it's a new program. I just read all about it that was passed the Florida legislature unanimously already. And how's it going to work? It's going to work that the condominium is going to be able to use professionals to come in, take a look at the condominium property, do basically a structural integrity reserve study, find out what needs to be done, right? Especially with the roofs and windows primarily. And if the condominium is willing to make the changes, the upgrades that is recommended by these reports, the state will do better than match you dollar for dollar. The state will match you $2 for every $1 that the condominium is going to spend. This sounds like a fantastic program, an amazing program. You get professionals that are going to be hired by the state. They're going to do this inspection. If you do what they tell you to do, bottom line is you're going to save a ton of money on your insurance, and they'll pay $2 out of every $3. Sounds like an amazing project, right? Here's the problem, Rob. You look at the legislation, and it says this program has not yet been funded by the Florida legislature. Okay, so they got to put away how much money? And it says, even though we're passing it this year, it does not mean that we're going to fund it this year or any other year. So so we don't know if it's ever going to actually go into practice. What I will do is promise to keep everybody advised. If it does go into practice and you're a condo, absolutely stop, drop, and fill out the forms and see whatever you can get from this program. But it's going to pass, but it's not yet funded. There's a whole bunch of forms that they promise that they're going to have to prepare and send out to the associations. None of those forms have been prepared yet. Once that happens, I promise, as you could expect from the show, I will let you know, but we're not there yet. Back to the phones.
Let's go to, actually, let's go to, it looks like Eric.
Eric must be a great guy. Hey, you there, Eric?
Yeah, every Eric is a great guy.
Hey, I just said, you know what I love about you? Your name. How can I help, buddy? Where are you from?
Well, boy, after listening to the program, there's just so many more things that come up, you know, like the roofs and stuff like that.
Yes.
We've been through that roofs. We've got 87 of them here.
Wow.
We had a situation where, like right there, I'm just not why I called, but I have to opine on this last comment. We actually had great insurance, and our board members who were doing that thought we had a wonderful job. We got 100% roof replacements in our policy.
Right.
And they thought that was just dandy.
Right.
And then 30, 60 days later, I get a letter that, sorry, we have to replace every roof in the complex,
There you
$5
go.
million, and blah, blah, blah. So, and of course, the nice lady who figured that little plan out hands me the cancellation notice on Wednesday at midnight. Friday, we're uninsured.
Oh my God. With no notice whatsoever, basically.
Yeah, long story short, I did some bobbing and weaving. I got some really great advice from another insurance broker, and we talked them out, and I fought them writing them, and eventually we crossed over the hurricane threshold that you say is coming.
Yes.
And once hurricane season, whatever that magic date is, they can't cancel you. So
Right.
that worked out for us.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Good for you.
So anyhow, the topic of something this is beyond the scope. This is great. You're writing law. I've always wanted you to get this. This is something that you're going to look at me and say, yeah, this is impossible. You got the educational bill, so minor in nature, so inexpensive, non-expensive, and it was a war.
Absolutely.
I always wanted, you buy a condo and you get a mortgage, right?
Yes.
The banks have to escrow your taxes.
I know where you're going. I know where you're
I
going.
know where I'm going. I think I've yelled at you for this. They need to escrow for our maintenance and assessments.
Okay. So Eric.
It's a big lobby group.
Eric brings out an amazing point. So let's do a little teaching here. Like Eric says, when you go to take out a mortgage, the bank wants to make sure that your real estate taxes are paid, because if your real estate taxes are not paid, right, and the county does basically, we'll call it a foreclosure for lack of a better word, right? Their mortgage gets wiped out, okay? So the taxes that you owe to the county are superior to the money that's owed to the bank on your mortgage. So how does the bank protect itself? The bank says, okay, we obviously got to make sure that your taxes are getting paid. Otherwise, we could get wiped out in your mortgage. So we're going to take out every single month from your mortgage payment an amount of money so that at the end of the year, we pay the taxes. We know for sure that it's paid and we don't get wiped out. What does Eric want to do? Eric wants the ability for the banks to also say, well, we're also going to take out money for your condo assessments, maybe 6 months in advance. Now, would that be a wonderful, wonderful thing for condos and HOAs, so that if somebody doesn't pay for X amount of months or a year, there's that money that the banks have been escrowing, or the banks would pay it every month. The unit owners wouldn't have to pay it. The banks would pay it directly. Sounds fantastic. That's way there'd be far less harm to an association, especially during like a foreclosure crisis. We knew that the association would get paid every month. It would be great, fantastic, wonderful for associations. And guess what, Eric? Never going to happen. And
Of course not.
and the
Lobby
reason
groups.
why
Yeah,
it's
no.
never going to happen is one simple reason. It makes it harder to sell homes for developers, right? When
Yes,
the
I understand that for sure.
Yeah.
As we come into the economic collapse that we're about to occur, I mean, I don't see any way spiraling out of this. We all know it's happening.
Yep, of course.
The next problem is this safe harbor business.
Yep.
And like I say, I own multiple properties and
Right.
all these giant things, and we're trying to get all these workarounds, and everyone's scrambling for this deadline, which,
Yep. So
as
Eric,
far as I'm concerned,
Eric, you raised another point. You spoke about something called the safe harbor provision. So really quick to everybody, what's the safe harbor provision? So when a bank loans money, they give you a mortgage, right? They give somebody a mortgage, and let's say that that mortgage is not getting paid back, right? So the bank ultimately has to foreclose on the property. Now, suppose simultaneously with that, not only is that person not paying the bank, but the person's not paying the condo dues each month. And the condo dues are going up and up and up, and the delinquency is going up. And the bank winds up foreclosing on the unit. The bank now owns the unit. Well, does the bank owe you all the money that that delinquent owner hasn't paid to the condo association or HOA? Absolutely not. Eric mentions what's called the safe harbor provision. And the safe harbor provision says if the bank gets it back, the only thing, even though the unit owner might be a year or two delinquent, the only thing that the bank has to pay is the lesser of, whatever's less here, 1% of the mortgage, or 1%, I'm sorry, 1% of the mortgage, or 1 year of assessments. So it's almost every time it's 1% of the mortgage. Let's say 1% of the mortgage, it's a $300,000 mortgage, 1% of the mortgage is $3,000. That would be the most that the bank has to pay, but the unit owner could be behind $10,000. But the bank, that's called a safe harbor. The bank only has to pay $3,000. Now, I tell you, you answer a question and it just spirals from one thing into another. What unit owners have to check, what members of boards have to check. Eric, you raised a great question. You got me going on a roll here. What unit owners and boards have to check. You got to go to your governing documents, because some of you have provisions in your governing documents, you haven't updated it, that says if the bank forecloses and gets back the property, they owe $0. Now, the law would require them to pay the 1 year or 1%, at least it's something, but your own documents can kill you. Your own documents can say, nope, the bank owes nothing. And if a third party buys the property at a sale, not the bank, somebody else, they always owe 100% of what's due. But check your documents. Your documents, some of you have terrible language in there that says even if a third party buys it, that third party owes $0. Whereas, again, it would be if a third party buy it, they would owe you everything. So, Eric, you raised a really great question. If for nothing else, you raised awareness here. Associations have to go back and check their documents.
Is the condo foreclosing on the unit before the bank?
Yes.
Or along the bank, and immediately go into a full, get the people out and get them into a full, start collecting rent.
Yeah, that can happen too. That could happen too. Sometimes that's the right idea. Sometimes sitting back and doing nothing might be better instead to wait for the bank to foreclose. Again, I'll say this, when it comes to collections, there is no simple answer on every file. Every file has its own story, especially if there's a bank foreclosing. Absolutely. Hey, Eric.
I disagree.
Eric, thank you so much for the phone call. I appreciate it very much. You got it. I want to wish all our listeners today a happy and a healthy Easter. I hope you have a wonderful day with your families. Please remember that if you need legal help off the air, give Glazer and Sachs a call, 954-983-1112. Again, 954-983-1112. For those of you that are coming tomorrow to Tampa, can't wait to see you, meet you, and teach you, okay? We'll see you next week at 11 a.m. on Condo Craze and HOAs. Everybody have a wonderful, safe, healthy week.